just considering and thinking about how everything is happening all the time, and so many of us are trying to take it in. And I was thinking today about the Eightfold Path, which, and in my thoughts, this idea about wise effort and wise action, and how much do we want to try to hold, like what's realistic for us to hold, and then what's realistic for us to do. And I don't know that we're always thinking about those things. During the Buddha's time, there were wars, there was other forms of violence happening, there was poverty happening, and then of course there were marriages and births and celebrations, so that even then everything was happening at the same time. And the practice was brought in to help us center and ground. And I really appreciate the way the Buddha also brought in this idea of loving kindness for ourselves first, brought in compassion for ourselves first. And then, of course, the path sort of reminding us that we're not in a race, that we're not... a couple of things. One, if we can be in this moment now, it's one of the wisest places where we can make decisions. But it's not just about being in this moment, but being in this moment, noticing what we're experiencing, noticing what we need, and then honoring that. And that's one of the things that we tend to leave out in our experience. I was reading a little bit of Jack Kornfield, who writes, "What the world needs most is more love, more generosity, more mercy, more openness. And the root of human problems is not a lack of resources, but comes from the misunderstanding, fear, and separateness that can be found in the hearts of people." And I'm sort of pulling a little bit of what he said. Those are not exactly, these are all his words, but putting that together. And in reading, I was thinking about wise understanding, and he says, this is the beginning he uses right understanding. Looking at our lives, seeing that they are impermanent and fleeting, and taking into account what matters to us most deeply. And the questions that came up to me were, when was the last time you sat down, thought about what your values are, and then looked at how you're living them? So we sort of, in our experiences in the speedy life, we have our ideas of what we value, we have our ideas of what we think is right or wrong. And I wonder what we're leaving out in that consideration. When we're considering that this is wrong, how are we living or holding or expressing peace? When we're considering that, this is what we don't like, how are we holding or expressing and experiencing compassion? And then also noticing the values that we tend to step over. So I'm guessing that many of us value time. Many of us value community, friendships, family, and yet we seem to be in a cycle of rushing to get to them, rushing to get them done. We're not actually living into that. And what would it be like? When we got on tonight and I saw, so when I got on and I saw some of you, I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what happened in the news. I used to, for a while, it was like really important to know what was the trauma of the day, or so I thought. And I almost went rushing, and I'm like, wait a minute. Everything that's in the news today was in the news yesterday. It may have been a different place, it may have been a different time, it may have been different people, but it's all the same. So I too had to come back and be grounded in this moment. It's still early. It's early in the year. It's February. And I continue to ask the question, who do you want to be in 2022? Like, who do you want to be in your life at this time? The possibility of war is at our doorstep, which is something that many of us are aware of, that we're acting out outwardly in a different way almost all the time, but it's feeling closer to home. And what are the resources that you create or the resources that you have or you need to help hold you with that while still dealing with transphobia, while still dealing with LGBT or queer phobia, while still dealing with misogyny, and while we're doing our healing. And I want to encourage you to consider, what would it be like? And some of you are, maybe you're already doing this, but what would it be like if you created your day around your practice? Is that right? Yeah, instead of creating your practice around your day. So what would it be like? And I like to offer challenges. I've been doing that for some reason. What would be like for the next 30 days if you were committed to practicing in the morning, practicing in the afternoon, and practicing in the evening? And again, the practice, as I learned from Thich Nhat Hanh and other teachers, it doesn't have to look the same each time. It might be that there's a sitting or lying down or stillness practice. There might be a movement practice that happens. And there might be a writing practice where it could be gratitude. But what would it be like? What's possible for you if you decided to really engage in the practice in a deeper way for the next 30 days? And notice what you're feeling, even as I say this. Notice what's coming up for you. Some of you are having panic already, and we're still here. Some of you are already like, oh no, I don't know if I can make that happen, right? Just notice it. And some of you long for it, but you're worried that you can't make it happen. So what could support you is something to think about. In my early days, you saw Human was playing music from Insight Timer. My 45 minutes a day came with doing that and watching my time and then watching other people's time. But it was something that got me into it. And then I have friends I had back then and today that we do 10-minute meditations over the phone. We just text, are you ready? Yes. Put the phone down, we practice. There's a reason why we're all here now. Each of us are bringing something. Each of us has something to learn, and each of us are bringing something to the bigger experience. And it's so empowering to actually be able to not just honor that, but even know what that is. And the practice helps with that. As you sit with what's inside of you, as you allow who you are, as you begin to love and become compassionate with yourself, which supports your healing in this life, something that we all benefit from, you become more and more of yourself, and we need you. You wouldn't be here if you weren't needed. It might be hard for some of you to believe, but you're here for a reason. I don't know what it is. I don't even know why. I mean, I have an idea about what I'm here, but I don't know how I got here. But I know that for me, being love, so I try to practice being love all the time. What does it mean to be love? It means to understand that for me, I have no problem loving anybody. I may not like them. I may not want to be around them, but I know that I love them as a human being. I love Trump as a human being. I have compassion for his suffering. Don't like him. Just naming him. I have people in my past that have harmed me that I can have compassion for. And so what the way it supports me in my life is the more I'm in this that feels like me, that feels good and natural and feels like who I am, the more I'm able to touch other people. So it feels like my purpose to touch, to be able to reach across borders, to be able to listen with wise understanding, to be able to see with clarity, with better clarity, why someone is causing me harm, why someone's causing other people harm, and possibly through that seeing and that deep listening, have them give me the same opportunity so that I can support them in their healing. Hopefully, yeah, that's what I believe. We only have a couple of minutes left, so I don't want to talk the whole time. I want to take a couple of thoughts. To be honest, I have this fear that I keep talking about the same thing all the time because I do. And I'm sitting with that fear with the understanding that it's taken me so long to get it. And that if only one of you walks away in consideration of loving yourself deeper, of finding out what it means to really be self-compassionate, then I feel like it was worth my time and energy to be here.